Hi everyone, and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to break down how control moved from Arsenal to Liverpool, what caused that shift tactically, and why a goalless draw doesn't tell the full story. This was yet again another opportunity for Arsenal to put more points between them and City, and we're going to address why they couldn't. When looking at Arsenal, they built out with a 4-3-3. Throughout the match, their build-up structure stayed the same, but it's important to note the fluidity in midfield as Rice, Zubimendi, and Odegaard would rotate the pivot role. Despite their fluidity, this wasn't the only movement that occurred, as we often saw Hakempe and Timber pushing high to break the Liverpool man-to-man press. During this phase, Liverpool defended in a 4-2-3-1, but struggled to keep up with Arsenal playing through the center, as Slot went with a false 9. This meant Florian Wirtz was the closest player to that position, and his pressing in the first half was ineffective, meaning that Arsenal could work the ball into the progression phase of the field quickly, and this is when we saw Saka get more involved. Saka, who was man-marked by Kerkez, would drop to receive the ball, taking Kerkez with him, which created space for either the midfield or Timber to run into. This was a frequent occurrence, and it became very clear that Kerkez would go anywhere Saka would during the first half. This strategy was also how Arsenal went into the attacking third. Saka would drag Kerkez out of position, and a pass would be played into the space for Timber to run onto. If this option did not work, Arsenal would keep the ball in their 3-2-5 structure, and keep possession until space was created between defenders. For Liverpool, the first half was all about defense, pressing with an initial 4-2-3-1 and then shifting to a 5-3-2. With 5 defenders and 3 midfielders all defending in the defensive third meant that Liverpool were able to press Arsenal's wingers without giving up the center. However, it was common to see excess space between Kerkez and Van Dijk, with no defensive support when Kerkez applied pressure on Saka. Further up the pitch, a 4-2-3-1 defensive shape should have allowed Liverpool to control midfield, with 5 players in the area, although because the Liverpool pivot defenders were hesitant to step up, Arsenal's midfield appeared free. When Liverpool did have the ball and built out of the back, they started with a 4-1-3-2, with McAllister as the lone pivot, but later adjusted to a 4-2-3-1 to account for the Arsenal 3-2 pressing shape that had forced Liverpool to play wide. Further upfield, McAllister was joined by Szoboszlai, who played as a free-roaming 10. The Liverpool midfield resembled a diamond between McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, and Wirtz. This outnumbered the Arsenal midfield 4 players to 3. At this time, Kerkez and Bradley were pushed higher, with Bradley making forward runs into the box. The cue for Bradley to make his run happened when Wirtz dropped to receive the ball in midfield. Liverpool would then look to attack with a ball over the top, simultaneously pinning Arsenal back. Liverpool played without a striker, with the idea that Wirtz and Szoboszlai's free movement, along with Bradley and Frimpong and Kerkez and Gakpo, would overload the wings. Because Arsenal defended zonally in a 4-4-2, they were less fazed by the Liverpool movement and were also able to contend with the wide channel overload. The first half was nothing short of Arsenal domination that should have seen them with more success. However, heading into the second half, Liverpool made a few tactical adjustments that altered control of the game. In possession, Liverpool built up with a 4-2-2-2 system, staying true to a false 9. McAllister and Gravenberch would drop to play as pivots while Wirtz and Szoboszlai stayed higher. This left Gakpo and Frimpong to stay as wingers. This effect led to Liverpool overloading the midfield, outnumbering the Arsenal press. Liverpool kept this change further upfield and maintained their double pivot. They also had Bradley and Kerkez alternate who would step forward and who would stay back. This occurred when the ball was with the opposite CB, signaling who would step. To get into the attacking third, Liverpool looked to create isolation, usually with Frimpong against Lewis Skelly. From there, he would service across into the box. They were also keen on getting both wingbacks forward at this point to create a 2v1 on the wing. While Arsenal were defending in their own defensive third, they maintained their 4-4-2 from the first half to prevent Liverpool options in the center. Arsenal continued with this approach into midfield and only adjusted to a 4-2-3-1, with Odegaard pressing high when Liverpool recycled the ball around the back. During their build-up, Arsenal kept their 4-3-3 as well as their fluid midfield, and wing-back progression, but were unable to hold the ball for long because the Liverpool pivots were more keen on pressing than they had been in the first half. Verts was also more effective and dropped to play a more defensive role instead of pressing the back line. This meant that Liverpool were 4v3 in midfield, outnumbering Arsenal. The result of this meant that Arsenal really didn't make it into the Liverpool box until the final minutes, and when they did, they sent everyone up. The second half was all about Liverpool's attacking strategy and leaned into the lack of a number 9 in order to commit more players to the progression and wide channels. They also committed more numbers defensively and were more interested in applying pressure in midfield than committing to a man-to-man press. Arsenal, by contrast, could not keep up with the changes and were unable to keep the ball for long. But I'm curious though. I want to know your thoughts. Was this slight adjustment the result of Liverpool's turn of control, or did you pick up on something else? Let me know.